Now we're going to compare the XA35 to the G40. Now the G40 is pretty complete with everything it's got. So we're going to start, keep these apples and apples. And if you're wondering why I keep a strap on this G40, depending on where I shoot and what I'm shooting, I can take this camera and I can shoot from the vehicle if I need to shoot some kind of scene. And I can do voice commentary. I'll show you sometime how that works. It's great, it's easy to manipulate with. Because there's low clearance, I don't have to worry about, and the audio right close to me on board is fine. But if I want the G40 to equal the XA35, and this is something I would have liked to have had a little more insight about, because I had no idea we'd be getting XA35s when we bought the G40s. When we went from the Canon Vixia 500s and 600s, and then we went looking at a G40, I thought this is ridiculous. But then once you cross that path and go down that road, then you understand and appreciate where you're at. But getting there, that's what is that's the one that's kind of tough to deal with. So I'm going to show you the comparison of these two, one perspective. Here's an XA35 fully rigged out, and to complete the task, that's the only thing I have to do when I take it out of the case. It's ready to shoot, and put a battery on it. Now for this to come close to this, and I'm sure you've seen this in devices before. Now this is a Scorpion. They'd asked me a long time ago to do a review of this product, and this is the Scorpion Pro kit, and I have rigged it out with Kessler plate on the bottom, Kessler plate on the top, so that I can quick disconnect to put it on the tripod, and I can quick disconnect to get the camera in there. This was rigged for the G40, and I've got a Rode microphone on it because it uses the small plug. It doesn't use the XLR. So this was a perfect setup to go with the G40. So you look at what the cost of these two items, irregardless of the two Kessler mounts. So you've got that, and then you've also got to have a Decimator NDXX converter. Now, to be fair and to be honest, when you start with one of these small Canon cameras, you've got to have a converter. So this converter with this camera, this converter will still work with the other camera. It gives you HDMI to SDI. And the easiest way to configure one of these is with the software. Experience. So with all these items, the XA35 is not as expensive as it seems once you add up everything that's required. But if you need to start small, a couple of those cameras for a couple $100. When you move up to a camera like this, you're looking at around $1,100, maybe $1,000, depending on what the price is right now. You've got this Caddie, which is the Caddie Scorpion EX Pro kit, and also a Rode microphone. That's a great little Rode microphone. I think it's the Rode Microphone Pro. I'll put the part number up in the video to show you. That's a great piece of equipment. Think of it as a gimbal. It has nice balance to it, but that was required to give me what I was looking for. But when I finally got to the XA35, I didn't need this. This became obsolete. This microphone became obsolete because with a professional setup, and if you'll notice, the one thing I didn't care for on the XA35 is the microphone mount. So the microphone mount is still here. I don't use it. If I did, I'd have to get O-rings for it. So what I did was I put this mount, which is from RA, and it mounted on top. And it works. And I put that in a case. I've got a special case with a foam cutout that I can put two of these in that case. I've also got a special case cut out that I can mount two of these in a case, but this case takes up a whole lot less space. But I get better quality video, hands down, with this camera. I hope this gives you some insight, so when you're looking at getting some cameras for your video switch, it'll give you something to think about. In the $200 range, the $1,000 range, plus the other options you got to have to put into it, and then when you're looking at a camera like this for $2,100, the camera is worth it, but it just depends on where you're started and where you're going. In time, when we add another camera, I'm looking at 3 different cameras right now. Do we go with another XA35? Do we build a BlackMagic cinema camera, a micro cinema camera? Or do we look at something, say, from possibly PTZ Optics? I'm partial to Canon. I know how they work. The menus are all pretty much the same. They're easy to operate. And I've read where some people complain. Boy, I think they're pretty easy to work with. If you understand the Canon Vixia 500, 600, and 700, you're going to have pretty much the same nomenclature when you get into the G40, and it's pretty much the same, although some places menus are swapped in different locations, but it follows the same path. When you get into the XA35, it's real easy to set up. And what we might do is an unboxing and setup of that next camera when we do it. But I'm right now leaning toward another one of these cameras. Again, we have the ability with the switch and with the SSD recorder to shoot 4K 30. But right now, all we're doing is 1080. And for those of you that have the luxury of hindsight, there's a lot more options from BlackMagic that we might look at sometime and talk about the different switches. For example, the switch we have suited our needs because it has Super Source. Love the Super Source. I've never used all 4 screens. One thing that's lacking, but this goes back to the converters, is being able to do a side-by-side comparison, but you've got to have a region of interest scaler, and that's a whole different converter. So to do that, 2 specific input devices like a computer have to have region of interest scaling. So as we go through this, first thing we talked about was the video switch and the cabling. Now we talked a little bit about the cameras, and I hope you found this helpful. I'd appreciate a thumbs up and likes, and if there's something you didn't like or have a question, please let us know, and we'll see what we can do to answer that question. Thanks for watching. Appreciate your support, and we'll see you in the next video.